Bitcoin isn't a bubble. Bitcoin is the big bang. It's the black hole that absorbs all the savings premium, the monetary premium in every single other asset. And AI is actually accelerating this very trend and not distracting from it. This is what I'm going to talk about today with Nikolaus Jilch. He might be a little less known in the English-speaking universe in Bitcoin, but he hosts, in my opinion, the best and the biggest German-speaking Bitcoin-only podcast. He's the Peter McCormick Natalie Brunel of Austria with just a little bit less hair. Enjoy. How do you see Bitcoin and AI, those two technologies kind of coming together, and what does this mean for the world? What does this mean for Bitcoin? What does Bitcoin mean for AI?
I mean, it's the classic Jeff Booth argument, really. It's abundance to an extent. I don't believe in like infinite energy. It's deflation to an extent. It's a rearrangement of things about what is a good life, what is a productive life, where do you want to live, like what jobs can you do? I mean, it might be a meme, but it's a couple of years ago, I'm a journalist, right? A couple of years ago, journalists were being told, learn to code. Now, now the same journalists are even better coders because they can use vibe coding or whatever. I personally, I understand that vibe coding is a thing, but and I understand that it's now easier to code stuff, but I still don't know what to code. So as long as you don't know what you want to code, then it doesn't matter if it's AI or real language, code language. You have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have so many possibilities with AI, but you also need a use case, and there's a lot of this, Bitcoiners know about signal and noise, but there's a lot of noise in AI and what can you really use. And also this OpenClaw was a huge boom. I tried it and I was like, why do I need it? Like, why do I need to give an AI access to my wallet, access to my computer, access to like persistent memory if like my chat was already doing really good. So there's a lot of hype inside of it. But I'm always interested in the actual use cases of AI and the convergence of Bitcoin, because we have the real estate goes into Bitcoin. We have so many podcast episodes already that where real estate people, developer, investors went full on in Bitcoin. We had people that came from stocks. I mean, I myself came from stocks and gave everything into Bitcoin. The same with, gold bucks also that were big on gold and came into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin kind of I don't like the word, but like kind of sucks up all the monetary energy or monetary premium of other assets.
That is very important. That is extremely important. And it's like I have this meme by Anil Setso. I forgot his real name. I met him once in Prague. Lovely guy. And he does like the best infographics. And it's like you see that iPhone that sucks up maps and TV and radio and 100,000 other things that we now do on our phones, right? And that's one of the ways that technology has made our life easier and cheaper. We don't have to buy all that stuff. Like nobody buys an alarm clock anymore. My wife had an alarm clock actually because she didn't want it to be like her cell phone to be in the bedroom all the time, and we have to get up to get the kids to school. But now my youngest has destroyed the alarm clock, so now we have to go back to the cell phone for now. But besides like these niche things, you don't need these things anymore, right? Nobody's buying maps for the car anymore. And one of my main arguments long before AI was that the tokenization of assets is not going to happen in the way that many people think, because the first thing we tokenize is not the asset, but the value that's stored in the asset. We don't need to tokenize real estate in order to buy real estate that is only bought as a store of value. We can buy Bitcoin. We don't need to tokenize stocks that are only bought as a store of value. We can buy Bitcoin. We don't have to tokenize wines and sneakers and all the collectibles that have been, monetized and get a monetary premium, like you said, because you can buy Bitcoin. And that is one of the main things that has nothing to do with AI, one of the main economic things that very few people, I think, still understand. And this image that Anil did really sums it up, because you have the iPhone with all maybe you can I'll send it to you and then we can show it to people on YouTube. I think it's better than that. It's better to do it that way. And then you have Bitcoin, sucking the value out of stocks and bonds and cash and gold. I mean, not so much gold, to be honest, but like I always thought that Saylor is wrong about gold getting demonetized first. I think the other asset classes get demonetized before the actual monetary asset class gets demonetized by Bitcoin, if that makes sense. And AI is just. I think that the main thing is that it's one of those things where you can see how powerful it is, and you can like extrapolate where this might lead, and you have this feeling that you should be using it, but at the same time, when you try, you realize that sometimes it's more work than doing it yourself. Sometimes there are extremely useful use cases, but they're super small and they don't really go well with like trillions of dollars of investment, right? Like I use AI with my podcast, you use AI with your podcast, but that's only like the media production side, which is a small thing. But we can see the potential, and we all understand that we should, keep tabs on it. That's also one of the reasons why I started the other channel. Keep tabs on it and see where it leads.
And this is the thing that the people that got successful in Bitcoin were the ones that kept tabs on it and were open.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
There's always a new technology. In the beginning, it does not make sense.
Imagine if you go into AI not knowing about Bitcoin. I mean, you're never going to understand anything about the economic side of like agent, even if it doesn't matter right now because it's not happening really. But then maybe you go to stable coins, right? And you think about stable coins because that's what you know, US dollar or whatever. But it's almost impossible to understand the economics, like the real base economics that are at play here, if you don't understand Bitcoin. And like being a Bitcoiner is basically getting a PhD in Austrian economics. And now we're both Austrians sitting in Vienna, but we're like the only people still talking about Austrian economics, us and the other Bitcoiners, right? But it's getting a PhD in real economics. And I think that gives us a perspective. And you can, and then also the other thing is that it's now less edgy to be a Bitcoiner because everybody is edgy about AI and especially when it comes to like the power consumption, right? Since AI needs a new nuclear power plant for every like cake recipe that you get out of ChatGPT, there's no debate anymore about Bitcoin's power consumption. And I think that this is one of the things like that the public debate is going to be shaped by AI even more, and Bitcoin is going to look maybe less edgy, but also more approachable and normal in comparison to what's happening in the AI world.
A small side note: do you think that the environmental debate went away because it definitely did? I barely hear it anymore. Went away because of AI or also because of BlackRock? Because those two things kind of came at the same time.
That's a very good question. Well, first of all, yes, Larry Fink, before they even started the ETF, they declared that ESG is dead now. There's no money to be made. We made all the money we could with ESG and overpriced funds. We now need other stuff. We do ETFs on Bitcoin now. So that's one part, and the second part is definitely the AI thing. It's there because now that because we have to be fair, there's probably more people already that are using AI in a way that there is people that really use Bitcoin. I think that's fair.
100%.
And so everyone who criticizes me about Bitcoin's power usage, I can either do like a long thing that it's bullshit anyway, and look at Bhutan and look at the renewable energies, and it's an energy sink of first resort and last resort. Bitcoin and energy is a brilliant combination. But it's easier to say, well, your ChatGPT uses more, they just opened a new nuclear power plant, or they just fired up a coal plant in China for your ChatGPT prompt that you didn't really need, man. So it's easier to win that argument. And yeah, that makes sense. And also there's like a society and economics-wide sense now that yes, we actually do need more energy, and it's okay to have more energy. That's like the switch that has happened, and AI really helped with that.
I never understood how we should progress back to using less energy. That whole narrative never made sense to me.
Haven't you read your socialists? Yeah.
Because I thought like expanding human life, expanding production, expanding things is a positive thing.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that like one of the, like during the AI hype, and it's definitely a hype, but something really, really bad is going to happen with the whole AI bubble at some point. I mean, it's and then one of the things I also say is like, as Bitcoiners, we are experts in bubbles and hype. It's the energy efficiency. So now we sit there and we say, okay, ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, it can do amazing things, but it does need a lot of energy. Actually, there's even less argument to be made for the energy consumption of AI than for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin really is a new thing, while AI just does, some people say it's a glorified text replacement, right? So it's and I mean, there's also the argument there, and we realize that the human brain is actually super energy efficient when it comes to in comparison to what AI does. The human brain cannot do Bitcoin, right? And the central banking system is definitely not more energy efficient than the Bitcoin, but maybe and not even gold, right? Nobody talks about gold mining and whatever. But yeah, this is also a debate that we are going to see.
Is there a world, I had that thought because I think we talked about it before, and I think you're against that worldview, but there's a worldview more and more that comes into Bitcoin more and more. I had like 3 guests of 800 that brought that in, so it's a very small percentage. That had that theory with AI drives down the cost of producing things almost to zero, and Bitcoin sucks up all the monetary energy. Why do we need money still if there is if everything is almost at zero cost? Maybe if we need energy abundance, if we can just press a button and we can design a home and robots gonna build it, and it's like very cheap, almost like costs nothing to do that. Is there a world where you even see a world beyond money, a world like post money?
Isn't that Star Trek? I think Star Trek is a world without money.
Never watched that.
You never watched Star Trek? Well, I don't know how to help you with that. It's interesting because it's one of the like science fiction thingies that is not totally negative, because most of our science fiction is always negative. It's always, you need to be afraid of the future and everybody's gonna die. Well, everybody's gonna die. Maybe not the Brian Johnson types of this world. They can see everybody else die, which is also not, that I mean, if you live 200 years and your friends don't, that's also shit, right? Okay, but I mean, as a theoretical concept, it's interesting to think about, like the idea of a post-scarcity world. From an economics point of view, I don't think it's feasible, and I don't think it makes sense. And even if, like, we don't know, even if the things that we today think are scarce and we value, not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is always going to be scarce, right? But if today the things that we value are going to be non-scarce and are going to be super cheap, we'll come up with other stuff that we want that's going to be scarce and it's not going to be super cheap, right? But maybe a house costs nothing, the car costs nothing, but then we want to make, we want to go on a vacation to Mars. I mean, how long is it going to take until the vacation to Mars is for free? I mean, I think that even the most positive thinkers would say that's a pretty big timeline, right? So yeah, I mean, I think of it more like within the next 10, 20, 50 years, you'll see, the human population is going to go down. I think that's pretty clear. So there's going to be some deflation there as well. And I don't think we talk enough about, the effects of the demographics, not only on our social security systems, but also on the economic system, because the inflating fiat money system has also gone hand in hand with an inflation of the number of people, right? Now, I would like there to be more people, but I think that these trends cannot be easily reversed. We'll see more of that. Definitely, that's one of the things we're going to see in the West is talk about have more babies. I hope it's not too late for that, but that's also another thing. So maybe we need technology to make it easier for us to have more babies, right? So maybe that's the way to go. It's easy to like have a science fiction story in your head and then sit in a podcast and say, I know what's going to happen, because nobody will ever be able to disprove what you're saying. So the only serious answer is there is trends, economic trends, and we can extrapolate them, but we really don't know.
Yeah, predictions you can only disprove with time.
Yeah.
You never really know it. But it's not a side note. do you think it's an existential crisis that humanity faces, as Elon Musk always says, with the we're not making enough babies? Or is it just like a pendulum swing that just will swing back, and then true wealth in 30 years is having 5 kids again because we need more babies? And
I mean, I think that people who have peddled the overpopulation myth are assholes. That are really, really evil people, because there's one thing to say, I know how the future is going to look like, I have this and that experience, whatever, but there's a whole different hubris to say, I know how many people can survive on planet Earth, right? But we need less people. That's just there's so much evil in this statement that it really bugs me. So yes, I'm totally with Elon. I don't think he cares what my opinion is, but I'm totally with him when it comes to yes, we need more babies, but not just because there is we need more people, but also because one of the negative things of fiat money is that the family, community, all these things have been discounted and have been replaced. And when we talk about the dangers or the dystopian AI, the idea of having robots taking care of everything, yeah, maybe, but my hope is that robots only take care of the things in the background that we don't see. I don't want to live in a world, personally, I don't want to live in a world where I don't have contact with other humans, right? And we already have that in some parts of the world, like in Japan, right? There is, what's the name? Hikimori or so? I don't know. There's people who never leave the house because they don't have any social connections, right? There's people who are, even here in the West, there are many lonely people. And if you're lonely, move to a different city where you don't know anyone and don't speak the language. You're gonna be lonely really quick. And if you're lonely, maybe going to the supermarket and talking to the cashier, having a quick chat on the street, that can really help. But when we live in a world where everything you deal with is a computer or an AI, I don't personally. I don't think that's good. I think that might happen, but then human interaction is going to have a premium. So people who can pay for it will have that. You already see this with hotels. I don't know, when you travel, do you go to an Airbnb?
Yes, usually.
Yeah. And then there's the other version of Airbnb. So Airbnb mostly is there's some key somewhere. You don't meet anyone. You just go into an empty apartment, right? The other version is hotels where there's no one at the reception. It's like a robot hotel, right? You can also do that. I think that's creepy. I think it's totally creepy. If I go to a hotel, I want to talk to people. I want to see people. I want to have somebody to talk to. I know I can check out the next restaurant on Google Maps, but it's still nice to have somebody local who can give you a recommendation, right? That's my personal opinion. And I think that this is going to be more important, especially when it comes to the parts of the population that are not so price sensitive, that can actually afford that. And I don't think it's a new thing either. It's if you go to a good hotel, there's always going to be lots of people. And if you go to a cheap hotel, there's not going to be many people. And if you go to Airbnb, there's no people, right?
This actually is also my thesis around personal branding and AI, because people think about, there will be AI clones of all the podcasts and all the content creators and all of that, and might be the case and might already be the case. If you swipe on TikTok or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, if you swipe an hour, you probably come across 10 AI creators that you thought maybe it's a human. But I think that what is AI? AI can copy things that we previously couldn't copy that easily. Mm-hmm. We can copy now a video of you saying things, and it can't be just an AI fake. We can still tell, but maybe we can't tell in 5 years. Maybe we most likely can't tell in 10 years if it was actual Niko or an AI Niko that can do it. But I think in that world where everything is copied and there's 500 Nikos out there or 1,000 Nikos out there, the human connection, meeting you at a conference and shaking your hand, will be extremely valuable. So I think I think also conferences will be a thing that people really crave for.
Maybe we'll have when we sit down here in the studio, we'll have a ritual where we I don't know, we exchange blood or something, and then we can show people that we are real persons. So I think that there will be something. Maybe we sign a we will sign a Bitcoin transaction to show people that we're real.
No matter if you already have self-custody or still have your Bitcoin on exchange, your generational wealth that you have in Bitcoin could be completely at risk. And that's why I highly recommend to you to give the Bitcoin Way a 30-minute free consultation call to check how secure your custody setup really is and what you can still improve. So head over to thebitcoinway.com/Robin. Again, that's thebitcoinway.com/Robin and get your free initial 30-minute call with the Bitcoin Way. I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC free Bitcoin. That's why I use Simple Mining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control, and I can sign up with Ocean, no account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together.
It's actually one of the interesting questions. How real will it get? I don't know. I mean, it's pretty real when it comes to video already. I think that's my personal experience so far when it comes to AI-produced content is it can work for a very short while, but my attention span for AI voices, for example, AI podcast is very, very short because the human element is it's like something that you can. When we went from CDs to MP3s, people who really know about music said, yeah, I mean, I know it sounds the same to you, but it doesn't sound the same to me because I can hear stuff that has been decompressed away, right, or compressed away. And I think that it didn't start with AI. When you look at the media world today, I mean, the biggest media personalities like a Joe Rogan, podcasters who just sit down with their buddies or non-buddies and basically have a good time, right? Why is that so interesting for people? I think it's interesting because again because of the human connection, because you can be part of a chat, you can be part of a conversation, and not only that. I mean, how many hours do you spend in a real concentrated conversation like we're having right now, looking at each other? Nobody's taking out their phones. We actually get to develop our ideas in like this environment, and we get to share with the world. And then when you sit in the car or you wait at the supermarket, you can listen to this and be part of the conversation. And I think that has started way before AI. That because the media products that we have been served by mainstream media and also Hollywood, they have been like AI slop before AI was even invented, right? And now, like, one of my favorite genres is like YouTube videos about famous actresses who have completely ruined their facial expressions with plastic surgery and lifting, right? So their faces, their real faces, are worse than any AI thing you can get. They have no emotion in their face because they cannot move their face, right? There's a couple of exemptions like Claire Danes, right? She's doing all her acting with her chin. She's always crying with her chin. Have you watched Homeland? It's basically just Claire Danes' chin for 8 seasons. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant, right? So what I'm saying is the premium for the real experience has been there before. It's totally unclear for me how much will be done with AI that is an alternative to this stuff. There will be niches and there will be whole movies that are done by AI or whatever, and it will get better. But if you are able to exchange new ideas in a podcast setting, I don't think that this is going to go away anytime soon. I think it's actually going to get more. It's going to get more popular, and also people, because of AI and because of deflation, because of technology, people have more time. I mean, look at how many hours people are listening to podcasts, watching YouTube these days, right? I mean, there's nothing. I have a screen time on my cell phone of like 3 hours a day. My wife says that's too much. I have people who have 12 hours, and I tell them, you have 12 hours? That's crazy. And the guy says, well, no. The guy actually who's doing the AI podcast with me, right? He has 12 hours. And I'm like, and I said, this is crazy, man. And he says, no. I know people who have 17 hours. Right? I couldn't even have 12 hours because I'm not awake that long in a day. Because I'm old and I have kids.
I'm Gen Z and I have about 2, so I'm pretty happy about that. But no, that's not true. I have 1.5 hours phone screen time.
Yeah,
like
because you sit in front of your computer all day long.
10 hours, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that doesn't really count. But I'm still proud that I'm Gen Z having under 2 hours of phone time, because I think that's pretty rare.
It is, yeah. It's probably very rare, yeah.
But it's interesting, the personal connection that we have. Also, like the plastic surgery, I never thought about that, because
It's a whole genre. It's like there's hundreds of videos on that on YouTube. It's great. I love it.
Because they want to get no wrinkles here,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's human. Like if I do this, like there should be things here.
Yeah. That's acting. That's the real, like it's brutal. It's acting. You know, that's how you act. That's how you transport emotions on the screen without even saying anything, right? And it's not their fault. It's like, this sounds horrible, but it's like society's fault. They want the women to look like they are 20, even if they are 50, and then they're gonna look like monsters.
But even women with 20 have like wrinkles. Like it's a normal thing when you like.
Yeah, they start even earlier. There's teenagers who do Botox now. It's also the industry, It's like the next. They always try it with men as well now. Men looks maxing. Have you looked into looks maxing? You don't look like you have looked into looks maxing.
Never even heard that.
Oh man, you don't spend enough time on the internet. So looks maxing is like the idea of is like a cool way of saying. Men have to look good as well. So that the one part is again plastic surgery and cosmetics. The cosmetic industry has tried for decades to get into the male market, right? To get it like heterosexual males, right? But looks maxing is like these idiots who like hit their chin with a hammer in order to get a more chiseled chin, like literally. The people are idiots with a hammer. Yes, I think you should go into the internet a bit more and see how like people are absolutely insane.
I do want beauty stuff though.
Yeah.
I do moisturizing my face. That's one thing that I do.
So your looks maxing is still in its initial stages.
Yeah.
But people who watch this, especially if they're American and they spend time on TikTok or Instagram, they will know about looks maxing.
Is it a young person's thing or like
yeah. No, it's not like the old people, like old men. They can age fine, I guess, if they. I don't know, But I mean, it's more. I think it's more about do some sport, don't eat shit, but you can also hit your face with a hammer, I guess.
But I think the health stuff is actually interesting. The looking health. I mean, there's this like I want to look healthy and I want to look like 20, and I just put Botox in my brain. I think that's not a health debate. That's that's something completely else. But the health debate in Bitcoin is super interesting. When I go to Bitcoin conferences and just speak with Bitcoiners without cameras, just like a private setting, I tend to talk a lot about health. AI is also in there, and we talk a lot about AI, but health might actually be the even bigger conversation in the Bitcoiner circle. Outside of Bitcoin itself, we talk about the diet, we talk about sunning your balls, we talk about going outside. That escalated quickly.
It's like, okay, so you eat well and you sun your balls, man. Yeah. Look, it's honestly like the most rational answer to that would be if you found Bitcoin and accepted Bitcoin for yourself and have implemented it in your life, you've solved the fiat problem. That's the idea, right? So once you have solved the fiat problem, you get more time. And and you feel like you have something to live for, you feel like you have something to plan for, right? And then the step to think about your health makes a lot of sense. Now, do people take this to the extreme? Do people think now that they have understood Austrian economics and have read some Mises and maybe understood how inflation works and the Cantillon effect works and why debt-based money, maybe not bad, but has a lot of problems? Then they read, I don't know, a blog or watch a couple of videos, and they decide after 2 weeks they're also experts for nutrition. That happens. It's a phase.
Is that actually a luxury problem that Bitcoiners might have in the future when they are disciplined, they don't spend too much, they always have a savings rate, they always put it in Bitcoin, they pay attention to the Bitcoin, they do self-custody, they're not losing it, they're not spending it on Lamborghinis, they're not spending it on crazy houses or something like that. And in 10 years, in 20 years, they're making the calculation on what they spend per month and how many Satoshis they have, and they're like, oh, I can live for another 100 years from my stack, another 50 years, another 20 years from my stack, and then like, what do I do?
I think it's very philosophical. It's very philosophical. I'm 43. I don't even have so much Bitcoin because I first of all I bought and I sold and I bought shitcoins and I speculated and I lost money and I lost this and lost that. And then once I finally realized about Bitcoin, yes, I was very quick to start my podcast and that. But then I also invested a lot of money into the podcast, obviously. So my main Bitcoin investment is my business, not actually Bitcoin. But I think it's when you it may, like, if you look into the future, if you think you can plan, it doesn't even have to be Bitcoin. If you look at our parents or their parents here in Europe, after the war, after the wars was over and the building began, life got better, visibly better. So people were more optimistic about the future, and they were building for the future. Now we come from a generation, you and especially come from a generation where I grew up in the 90s, and I think the 90s were objectively the last good decade. Is that because that was when I was a teenager, or is it because for real, right? I don't know. When you look on even like Instagram shorts or YouTube shorts or whatever, that like old footage from the pre-cell phone era from like high schools, it's a whole sentimental thing, which is ironic because you're watching it on your cell phone. But what I'm saying is, I graduated high school in the summer of 2001, and then we had 2 months, 2 amazing months, right? And then 9/11 happened. Are you born after 9/11?
When was it exactly?
2001.
No, I was born before. Yeah, 1998.
98. Okay, so you were 3.
Yeah.
Right. So you didn't really. Yeah.
It was not shocking me.
It wasn't shocking. Okay. So then most of my adult life was crisis mode, and all of your life was crisis mode, right? So they're finding a way to get out of this crisis mode mentally is amazing. It could be philosophy. Bitcoin really helps because it solves the monetary problem. Okay. And then the next thing, of course, is health is the basis for everything else. If I'm not healthy, I cannot run my business. If I'm not healthy, I cannot take care of my family. But I also can't go on a holiday or do nice stuff. And some people realize that earlier, some people realize that later. And I think it's at some point you realize that it's more about feeling good today. And yes, being healthy, but not being like a nut job about it. Because even if you live like this Brian Johnson guy who thinks he's going to be 200, you can still get run over by a car, or be in a plane crash, or even get some weird disease that you did not account for, right? And if you spend your whole life, even the Stoics from 2,000 years ago knew that if you spend your whole life thinking about prolonging your life, you didn't even live at all. So it's really not a new thing.
When you said that about the generations, one thing came to my mind. Have you ever been in the Vienna subway after like 10:30, 11 p.m. at like a Saturday or Friday?
The funny thing is that when I was like 20 years, when I went out, like there was no subway at night in Vienna. They only started doing that a couple of years ago. That do you know that?
I know, I don't.
No, and like the New York subway goes 24/7, right?
Yeah.
The Vienna subway always stopped at night. So at night you only had the buses. Now on I think Fridays and Saturdays the subway goes through the night. But that, like when I was young-ish, when I was doing that, no, I was.
I brought that up because
And now I go to bed at 9. So
me mostly also, but I was once sober on a Saturday evening in Vienna subway at, I don't know, 11 or something like that. And it was so interesting to see because it's a very different picture to what you see at, I don't know, Friday 9 a.m. in the morning. Friday 9 a.m. in the morning, everyone is literally sitting there with the phone like that, like 99% of the people.
yeah.
Subway, 11 p.m. in Vienna on a Saturday night. Everyone is talking to each other. It's like it's almost like fun vibe. It's almost like at a bar. Almost nobody has a phone out. There's always like 1, 2 that with the phone in the thing, but because they're just late for home from work or like they had something else to do. But it's a whole different vibe. People talk to each other. Obviously they're drunken, so they're a little bit more fun. And not saying that get drunk on Saturday evening and have a good time in a subway, but it's kind of a window in what if there's no smartphones? Like people all of a sudden talk to each other because they sit next to each other. Now people don't talk to each other because they are on their phone and talk with random strangers on the internet.
Yeah, fight with them on X.
Yeah.
And you know, get in the latest news on the Bitcoin price, I guess. I mean, it's not like I don't do it. Yeah, I mean, I personally, what I do right now is this. I don't drink anymore. So I stopped drinking about half a year ago. It was a very spontaneous decision, but so far I really don't miss it. I figured out that when it's way easier to do the other stuff that's good for you if you don't drink, you know, because then you keep your gym hours, you do sports, right? I realized that I do podcasts, right? I do like 2 to 4 episodes each week. It's actually too many because I don't publish as many as you do. I always get stressed because there's too many like in the back catalog, right? But I realized when I started playing golf that if I do a podcast after, like the day after I played a round of golf, the podcast is gonna be way better because my energy is better and I'm on a different frequency, right? So and then at some point I realized, yes, golf is great and you get sun even without the balls, right? I mean, I only sun my golf balls, not the others. You get sun and you're in nature, and yes, I really try to spend 4 hours without taking the phone out, which is amazing. You know, it's like meditation. You move, you play a game, you're within your thoughts. It's amazing. I can only say, golf is the next big thing. But I realized that if I just want the positive, effects of moving my body, I can also go to the fitness studio, right? And then I do this for half a year, and then I get a message from Daniel, Stronger with Daniel or strongerbydaniel.com. Check out his website. He's a strength coach in Vienna. He's doing Olympic weightlifting stuff, like crazy shit, but he wanted me to check out his stuff and tell people that he would be available online, offline, and he also accepts Bitcoin as a cool website. And I'm like, it's perfect, man. I've been doing this for half a year. Now we can train together. I can learn from you. We do value for value. You come to the podcast, and he'll be on soon. So I stopped drinking, and it's easier for me to do sports. And I think that that's like the most important stuff, right? Like the most important steps. I don't know if I will ever drink again, but it really, like, I don't miss anything. I really don't. With the drinking, really. Now I'm an expert in alcohol-free beer, which is interesting. I like beer. I always like beer. The quote-unquote problem with beer without alcohol is that the first one is pretty good. The second one is already pretty shit. And then you never have a third one. So you never drink like 12 beers, right? Because with normal beer, you can drink 12 beers. So that's bad for like the industry. It's good for me.
With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Finally, we have BTC Prague back in 2026. And this year, I'm not only speaking on a panel, but I'm actually going to present an interesting new angle, a perspective, a Bitcoin thesis at BTC Prague this year for the first time ever. I've never done that on any other conference, so this will be a fun one. If you listen to this show on a regular basis, I would love to meet you in Prague this year. It's very high signal, no noise, and Prague is just a freaking amazing city with awesome drinks and a lot of good food. Use code ROBIN to get 10% off, and if you buy with Bitcoin, you get an additional 5% off your ticket price. I'll see you there in Prague. Make sure to come say hi.
There is a lot about health is actually cutting out the bad things.
Yeah.
And then this also, because we talked previously about the diets, carnivore and the vegans, and they're both very hard on like why their thing works. And I think the underlying truth of both of them is they all of a sudden cut out sugar and processed food.
Very true. Very true.
They all of a sudden cut out like those sugary drinks and all those things. And then of course they get healthier, but it's not because they only eat steak once per day. It's because they no longer eat the Kit Kats and the Sprites and all of those sugary drinks. So a lot of the health stuff is first cut out all the bad things that you're doing. No sleep, no movement, bad food, and then you can build on a nice solid base.
I mean, again, I'm not an expert. I'm not a nutritionist. I know a lot about Bitcoin. I don't know a lot about food, so don't take my word for it. But it seems very obvious that it's sugar. It's pretty fucking obvious that the sugar is like the real problem. It's probably not fat. It's definitely not protein. Of course, there are many ways to we also need some sort of carbohydrates. Don't get me wrong, but it's very obvious that the sugar and then of course alcohol is basically just sugar, that for me is very very obvious. That's just, and I try to stay away. For me, sugar has always been the main problem. I try to stay away, but also I don't want to be dogmatic about it because it never works. It's like if you say I'm never gonna do this, I'm never gonna do that, and then you do it, and then your will is broken, and then you say okay, then let me indulge a little more. I think that I don't want to sound like I've figured anything out, but I think not drinking really helps, with willpower, with sleep. One of the reasons I stopped drinking, I don't have it today because I forgot it, but I have this fitness thing, right?
The Whoop, yeah.
It's not a Whoop. It's like the cheaper version of a Whoop because I'm a Bitcoiner. I cannot do the Whoop. But it has it's a Mace Fit. It's
Mace Fit. After Oura Ring.
Yeah, it's like that, right?
Yeah.
So I have this, and then when you look at your sleep with no alcohol and you sleep with one beer, and basically your sleep with one beer is just shit. There's no real sleep there. It's just basically you're just in a coma, and especially if you drink more. So long story short, the alcohol really doesn't really help. And I've been I didn't drink I wasn't an alcoholic or anything, but I drank enough, a lot. I don't know what a lot is. I think people in Austria drink the second highest amount of beer after the Czechs.
Yeah, Czech, Germans, and Austrian is a nice region for beer.
I love beer, especially the Czech beer. But now I drink alcohol-free beer and has less calories, and I drink less. So, and you can drink it for lunch, like our dads did in the good old days. But they had the real stuff.
I was lucky. I never got into beer. I never liked it. I don't know.
I grew up in a wine region, so I hate fucking wine. I hate it.
And that's why I might
it's also
hate.
sugary.
that's why I might hate beer, because I grew up in Upper Austria where they drink a lot of beer.
Yeah, well, I don't like wine, and all the pretentious wine thing, and no, thank God, no.
Not in the wine, like it's in Austria it's a big thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big thing everywhere. But no, not for me.
We kind of got a little bit sidetracked
It happens.
from the AI Bitcoin thing, but maybe one more thing that I want to get into, because you said previously that you don't think gold is the first one to get demonetized, and I really strongly agree, because there's a lot worse assets that people save the money in than gold. Real estate, bonds, especially bonds, it's crazy. And now also with those strategy things, we have interesting vehicles to get that easy into Bitcoin. How do you look at the different asset classes being demonetized by Bitcoin? Do you have a sequence, a priority, or a framework to think about Bitcoin sucking up that energy from all the other asset classes?
I hope what I say now you can put that in like the highlight reel at the beginning of the episode, so people stay on through the whole health and AI debate, because actually that's the most important stuff. So one thing I think a lot about is the greater fool theory, right? And you know what the greater fool theory? The greater fool theory is something that people always bring up as an argument against Bitcoin. Why? Because in the classic investment world, there's always a story you tell yourself about intrinsic value, about the real stuff that companies are doing or countries are doing or whatever, that the assets that you buy. And like every good story, it's partly true. It is true. When you look at the long-term trends on equity markets, you will always, revert to the mean of actual, profits of companies and what they actually do, and that's a good thing. So I'm a big fan of like the Jack Bogle index investing school, 100%. I think that we're going to see in the next 20 years, we're going to like unleash the AI investment bots. And then after 20 years, we realize that none of them beat the market, that even AI cannot beat the market, because you cannot fucking beat the market, Yes, when you are lucky, or when you find a really, really breakthrough thing like Bitcoin early and you do it right, yes, you can beat the market for a while. But long term, as a strategy that you can tell your kids about, no, you cannot break the market. You cannot beat the market. But the greater fool theory is that there are assets with a financial intrinsic value, like stocks or bonds or even commodities, because you can use them for stuff. And then there are basically collectibles that have no sort of intrinsic value. Now, first of all, intrinsic value is a bullshit concept, and everybody who knows anything about economics knows there is no intrinsic value. There's only like value is like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder, right? But as a concept on Wall Street, there is such a thing, like you have that and that income, that the stock is there. You can have a earnings per share, whatever. Now you have in Bitcoin land, you have Bitcoin per share. It's so there's something there, right? Something that we call intrinsic value on the financial side. Okay, and then you have other stuff like Bitcoin, like these people would say Beanie Babies or Labubus. Yeah, or even gold that has no intrinsic value. Now, when it comes to gold, it's interesting. So people who don't like Bitcoin will say it trades on the greater fool theory. The greater fool theory means you have to find a greater fool to give you more money than you paid for it. That's the idea. Like that there's no real value underlying. You have to find a greater fool, right? The problem is that these people don't understand how money works. They don't understand that there is such a thing as a store of value. They think that money has always to be in some sort of investment and has to work, right? Because they don't understand that there is such a thing as saving, like saving your money for later. We do this actually. We talked about this before. We do this actually by storing our value in stocks, by storing our value in bonds, by storing our value in real estate, right? And what does this stuff trade on in the end for us? On the same thing. We also want number to go up, right? If I put my money in the S&P 500, it's because I want the number to go up. If I put my money into real estate, it's because I expect my number to go up. Nobody puts money anywhere where they say, well, we're going to lose the money. Yeah, some people do like with inflation, but that's not, at least it's not like a real deficit, right? Okay, so and there's this guest I had in my podcast. His name is Christoph Kletza, and he's a law professor at the King's College in London, but he's Austrian by nationality. He lives in Vienna and in London, and in 2017. He had an article in Die Presse, which is my old newspaper when I still worked there. And he said, Bitcoin is not a bubble, it's a big bang. He back then in 2017, he said Bitcoin is going to trade, at some point it's going to trade at 150,000 euros. We're still waiting for that, but that's a side note. And he said, and I think it's a brilliant sentence that hasn't gotten enough, recognition in the English-speaking world. He says, like gold, Bitcoin is not like gold. Bitcoin doesn't have a price because it's valuable. It's valuable because it has a price. There is a different form of asset class. It's a store of value. And like we talked about this before, the monetary premium in all the other asset classes that we talk about, it's there as a store of value. Gold is the next best thing we have to Bitcoin. Now, the people who say Bitcoin doesn't have any intrinsic value, Bitcoin is shit, they will not be able to explain gold because they always come from like the Keynesian side of things. They don't get gold, and they know that, but they accept this blind spot, this $40 trillion blind spot, right? And then when you press them, you say, yeah, but you can use gold for like chains and jewelry. That is bullshit. Gold only trades on monetary premium. Gold is a greater fool theory that's been going on for 6,000 years. So yeah. You can say you're a greater fool. Yeah, like you're a fool if you invest in Bitcoin. You're a great fool if you invest in Bitcoin. But there is a possibility, and so far it's been proven true, that you're an even greater fool if you don't invest in Bitcoin, right? Because none of us, like 99.9% of the Bitcoin people, still have some sort of leg in the old world, right? Fiat money accounts, fiat money investments, even the other stuff, stocks, bonds, gold, whatever. But those people who say who are religiously against Bitcoin because they think they're smarter than the market, they have no part of the Bitcoin world. And when Bitcoin grows, their importance will just shrink. So maybe we should not try to convince them. Maybe we should just say, okay, let's just wait, And in the end, that's what we do anyway. But I think that it's very important to understand that there is such a thing as store of value. There is such a thing as saving your money for later. Keynesians have forgotten about this. For them, like saving is the paradox of thrift. It's like if you don't put your money to work, then the economy doesn't benefit from it. So saving has a negative image. But especially in Europe, especially in the German-speaking world, we don't have as much, personal debt as Americans have. We have always been savers, and now the problem is become bigger because the inflation is higher, so the saving doesn't really work anymore, and that's one of the reasons why Bitcoin is so popular, and also attacked by the people who would love nothing more than everybody being poor.
Yeah, it's a great thing. It's actually an evolution. I think every Bitcoiner goes a little bit through this realization that Bitcoin will succeed without them. Like everyone comes in and thinks like, oh, we have to convince other people. We have to find a greater fool for that. But at some point you realize maybe it's even a bad thing if I try to convince people because I lose friends, I lose family, and I want to kind of stay more passive.
That's why I do my podcast, and everybody who wants to know about Bitcoin can tune into my podcast. But I never try to try to convince anyone. Also because I did that with gold. I tried it with gold, and as like before, I always knew that fiat money, inflation, debt, that's gonna be a problem. Like not always, but that's like my main thing. But I was super convinced about gold. I'm still not I still like gold, and gold's gonna be still playing a big role in this whole thing, right? But for me, gold was also a negative experience because I already thought I had a solution for me personally. So I didn't take Bitcoin seriously. I wrote about Bitcoin in 2013. I bought, I sold. I wrote in all the years. I wrote about the bubbles in 2016, 17, ICO, Ethereum, all that stuff. Bought, sold, speculated, lost money. I wrote about a Bitcoin-based actual Ponzi scheme, not Bitcoin, but like a Bitcoin-based Ponzi scheme in 2019 with thousands of victims, right? Which really turned me off the whole Bitcoin story, because I always understood that what Bitcoin wants to do, but I didn't believe it can succeed. I didn't believe it's going to work. I thought it's just going to be the gold. That's it, right? Let's say the Peter Schiff way, okay? And in 2020, when Bitcoin was already in the 5 digits price-wise, I still, like, this is embarrassing, but I still sold all my crypto and Bitcoin in the Corona crash, in the March crash, because I thought the world's going to end. And my mind was not with Bitcoin. I talked to like people who are very good friends today, who are better investors than me, that bought Bitcoin at like $3,000 back then, right? And I still remember this. I said, "Are you crazy? No, like the world is ending, and you're buying magic internet money, right?" But I was wrong. I was dead wrong. And then I realized that they're just going to fight this problem with money printing, and that's why when the markets and gold and Bitcoin all shot up, and then I realized that I was wrong. I had to realize, like, it humbled me. I was wrong about Bitcoin. I have to realize that this is real. And if you realize and if you accept that Bitcoin is real, it has consequences. So my first consequence was that for the first time ever, I was forced to sell some gold to get like a little bit of Bitcoin exposure. I didn't have so much, but a little bit of, like, I could have gotten more than this exposure easily a year before.
I also feel like the thing that you're describing, that you got the fiat system and you got that it's not working out anymore. More and more people seem to wake up to that. Maybe it's because I'm living in a bubble, but I hear more talk also outside of the Bitcoin world about inflation, how things are getting more expensive. Obviously, it gets worse with time, and so the worse it gets, the pain gets bigger, so more people will talk about it. I just fear that in the medium run, most people will go to the wrong solution. I mean, we've seen in Argentina all over again, where new currency, it failed again, new currency, it failed again, and new currency failed again. And people still believe the same thing about the new currency, that
True.
they
Even
lost
same name.
Even with the same name, yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's very sticky. The fiat money scam is very sticky. It's very convincing because people are used to it, and they don't like the idea of questioning the monetary system is basically insane. Like, I know this because I was a gold bug. Like, as a gold bug, you question the monetary system, but it's so hard because there's no like livable alternative that you can use right now. Yes, you can buy a couple of gold coins, but it's not like you can use it for anything, right? And yes, Bitcoin will also have to go through the store of value phase first before it really becomes a unit of transaction and a unit of account. But it's possible. It's like with AI, you can see the potential, right? With gold, there is no potential. I mean, I love gold, but only as a pure store of value. It's even more greater fool probably than Bitcoin. I mean, I don't know. With a solution by the government, the government right now, it doesn't even provide a solution. Like, they don't even do monetary reform. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is making the problem bigger. That's the plan. The plan is not to just cut away a couple of zeros, and something that has happened in Europe as well. By the way, it's not just a phenomenon in Argentina. This has happened in the 20th century. You've seen this in France even, right? But that's not what we're talking about right now. What we're talking about right now is keep on pumping it up, finding bogeyman, finding excuses for the inflation. But yeah, you're right. Inflation or like monetary inflation, the effect. In German, we have a word for that. It's Teuerung. So it's like expensiveness. I don't know. There's no English word. It's interesting. In German, you have a word for inflation, the act of inflating the money supply, and the effect, which is stuff getting more expensive. In English, you have inflation and monetary inflation. It's also interesting. You have inflation and you have monetary inflation. You also have hyperinflation, because that has been a problem. Nobody ever talks about hyperdeflation because it's never happened before. Because that doesn't seem to be a problem, But on the other hand, it's the economists from the fiat system are telling us that deflation is such a big problem because, in a credit-based system, the credit deflation, yes, that's a problem, but not the actual price inflation of things getting cheaper. That is not a problem.
I mean, if you account your prices in Bitcoin, we lived through hyperdeflation the last 10 years.
If you do, but I mean, that's just a couple of complete nutheads.
Yeah.
Who do that. But I mean, when it comes to the idea of having a new money, I think that the phases, you have to look at the phases. So it's first it's store of value, then it's unit of account, and then it's unit of transaction. Now with Bitcoin, you can do all of these things at once. The first mainstream media coverage of Bitcoin was always fixated on the unit of transaction, like the last step, because there's a new money, you can use it to buy stuff, right? But there was never the idea of a new money that you can use to save your money in.
Is the unit of transaction later than the unit of account? I always switch them.
No, I think it's later because first you have to establish it as a store value, right? You have to know that this thing is worth something, so you can reasonably expect it to be worth something tomorrow. That's where people think it's the greater fool theory, right? Yeah. Then you start thinking. That's the unit of account. It's not like the prices are really in the supermarket are in sets. The unit of account is when you start thinking, should I buy this house or should I wait? Should I buy this new car or should I get Bitcoin? Right? That's when you start using it as unit of account because you have an alternative. And then as a last step, when everybody has basically said, this is a store of value. When everybody started to think in a unit of account, then you have a unit of transaction. And if enough people use a unit of transaction, Bitcoin as unit of transaction, then shops are forced to also price things in sets. That's my idea. I have no idea, but that's my theory.
Interesting. We said the unit of account, I try already to do a little bit. I track my spending, I track my income, I track my net worth in a huge Excel sheet that I do since years, just for fun. And what I did, I think like 1 year ago, I started having a second column, and it's great because you can just like pull out the Bitcoin price on that date with the tools, and how much Bitcoin did you get. And so like when you see that and make the switch, you actually like bear markets because you see that the amount of sats went up the fastest in bear markets, and it's the slowest in bull markets, obviously, because it gets your income buys less of the sats that you have.
It's even easier if you don't work in the Bitcoin industry and are not negatively impacted by the bear market. It's hard if you are. It's very. I mean, compared to other industries, it's like a wild ride. I remember when like in the last bear market, when the rates went up, like the quickest rate hikes in history, right? And I mean, basically, Bitcoin and crypto priced it in within 20 minutes. In real estate, it takes like almost 10 years. They are still reeling now. For like, we already had like the worst was behind us by dinner time, right? Because it's so quick. It's so quick. And then, of course, you have this situation that even though we all agree that Bitcoin is number is going to go up, better times are ahead. Some players, some companies will not invest in bear markets because they think it's not the right time. It's probably, in retrospect, it's going to be the right time, but it's always hard to say. Feelings. It's like you see why we have bear markets. Even people who are 100% convinced about Bitcoin are still getting nervous. Even though they get more sets, then they write about cheap Bitcoin, Yeah, but come on.
I have an interesting example for that. On YouTube, there's a feature when you when the creator of the video likes a lot of comments of one person, the person gets like a sticker. Yeah. Like they get something like, it's a person that the creator likes a lot. Yeah. And there's one person in my comments that was super positive on Bitcoin. Like he always left great comments. And now he turned the last couple of months very negative on Bitcoin and like it's over and like all of those things. And I only realized it because of that feature, because he still has that tag on that I liked his comments a lot, and now he turned negative. And I'm like, how many people are there that love Bitcoin when it goes up and hate it when it goes down and just like go with the flow and buy high, sell low. As we
I know,
talked
I
before.
know. That's why I talk about my own mistakes, because I know these people, because I'm one of them. I know, like even like journalists. Sometimes journalists will do stories because they lost money. They sold with a loss, and then next day you have like a column. It's like Bitcoin is the shittiest thing ever. Stay away from Bitcoin. I'm thankful it's gone. It's dead, right? How many articles about Bitcoin is dead are from people who just lost money, sold at a loss, and now want to convince the world that they are right still, and then they have to, I got humbled many times, just like that. So it's human psychology. It's pure human psychology. That's why I think it takes time in the bear market to get to a point where there's like a stable floor. That's why it's there's not gonna be an omega candle or a super cycle or any of that bullshit, and not like in the and you can even see it in the media when you look at like the news. Once you have a bear market, okay, everything's negative, right? Then you have a couple of weeks of prices going up, everything gets positive again. And then there's like, we got it to 100,000, 120, 150, 200,000, all-time high next week, whatever, right? And yeah, and then there are people who are so pissed at themselves for selling at a loss or doing this or doing that they want to get rid of all the Bitcoin things in the world, and then they will unsubscribe your channel, they will unsubscribe my channel because they just don't want to see it anymore. And that's totally understandable. That is a process that we have to go through. And yeah, I also see that in my comments that they turn more hostile and more like negative. Even if you do like me, I'm doing in the year 2026, I'm doing bear market content saying, I'm not trying to say we're going up next week. I still think, I don't know when you're going to release this, but I still think we're going to stay within the 4-year cycle. We're going to bottom probably in autumn. It can be that it's the same, like 60K. We just revisit that. We could go lower. We could even go high, like have a higher high, but we're still going to go have a higher low, but we're still going to have a low, right? And I've never really done any price analysis, but I thought that it's my responsibility to give people like my opinion. It could be wrong, obviously. I mean, people should know that I could be wrong. It's a very high chance that I'm wrong, but it's still my responsibility. And it's easier for me. It's easier to do in a bear market because if I say, "Hey, be careful," it's easier than just tell people we're going to the moon. Yeah, but that's what people want to hear. It's like there are some content creators who are just like perma bulls because they know people just want to hear that they're gonna get rich with Bitcoin. Don't tell them anything else. They're just gonna be mad at you.
I mean that's a content creator topic, but I just want to love to bring it up because there are certain titles and thumbnails that kept on working.
Yeah, sure.
And it's for me so interesting because there are so many people that complain about that, but there are the same people that watch it and comment and push the video with the comment and the watching. And I would love for the title and the comment and the thumbnail and everything always to be right on exactly what we talked about, like the perfect summary.
No, I know.
Like, it's like
It's impossible,
just does not work.
especially for a long form podcast. What are you gonna do, right?
It has like 7 topics in there.
More. I think we have like 70 topics already. I mean, we went from from ball sunning to the greater food theory.
True.
Like half an hour ago, we talked about AI and why people like listening to podcasts. So no, I understand. I do it all the time. And if I wanted the highest number of clicks, it would always be Bitcoin's going to 1 million, Bitcoin's going to 100 million, Bitcoin. I mean, honestly, if I put like a little chart into the thumbnail, it's gonna perform better than if I don't put a chart in there. If I do this, it's gonna perform better because people want emotion. People want to be surprised and all. I mean, that's just and that's what I said. It's human nature and it's market psychology that you also see in the Bitcoin price, and that's why it takes time for this psychology to play out in order to have a bottom, and then we can go up again.
I love that. We have one last thing that I actually have to take out my phone that because I didn't remember it. We have a question from the previous guest. He's always asking for the next
I
guest.
remember that. You still do that?
I still do that. I deleted a lot of the other end routines, but we managed to get through the whole episode to not talk about strategy. But the last
Did we? Okay, we didn't talk about strategy.
not really. I think I mentioned it once, but like we didn't really talk about. But the question is about Seyr and strategy, obviously.
Obviously.
What are your thoughts on Saylor saying he's gonna potentially sell Bitcoin if he needs to in the future?
Well, I mean, it was interesting because it's such a big topic in the Bitcoiner circles. But then you look at the price didn't react at all, which is interesting. You know, meaning that the market already understood this and already has priced that in because obviously
Price of strategy or Bitcoin?
both, honestly, as far as I remember. But so it's either we are already in a raging bull market again, and negative news do not qualify for a leg down, or it's just not negative news, because we're super schizophrenic when it comes to Saylor. On one hand, we're saying, it's a problem. He's buying too many Bitcoin. You know, he's like almost 1 million. He could go to 2 million. You know, it's centralized. That's a problem. And then the next day when he says, I'm going to sell some Bitcoin, he says, oh my God, you said you're not going to sell Bitcoin. Why would you sell Bitcoin? It's the best thing ever. Obviously, it's, when it comes to Bitcoin, at some point, selling is really the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a scarce asset. They're not going to make any more of it. But it really does not have any form of intrinsic value because it doesn't exist, but it doesn't have any, there's nothing you can do with Bitcoin. Like you can't even do jewelry. With gold, you can at least, I don't know, put it on the floor or put it on jewelry or like do something nice and shiny with it. So Bitcoin really is just a unit living on your computer screen. And yeah, I mean, you can hold it forever. And you can give it to your children, and they can hold it forever, and then you can use it to get loans against it. Yeah, you can do that, but ultimately, people will always be selling Bitcoin at some point because they want to buy something else, right? And that's fine. It's totally fine. And for strategy, it's probably a good thing that they say this because if they have 800,000 Bitcoin, and Bitcoin goes up to 200,000 or 1 million, they're gonna have an enormous amount of Bitcoin and a gigantic amount of money, and then they can use that money to sell out investors. I don't see a problem, really. It's more flexible than that. Like if you have a hard... The only thing that I would say is that, I mean, Saylor literally said something like, don't sell your kidneys before you sell Bitcoin.
I was just about to think about that.
And that's just, American marketing, I guess. And he doesn't really care. But he also said there's never going to be a crypto winter again. So I know he just, says one thing this today, the other thing tomorrow. But as a company that is also has shareholders, right? I don't think you're even able to say we're never gonna sell Bitcoin. That doesn't make any sense. Like it's like if I'm a shareholder. And your position is that even if we go under, we're never going to sell any Bitcoin. So yeah, I think it's like the market thinks it's a nothing burger because that's obvious anyway. It's just that some crazy people didn't believe it. I don't know, but I don't think it's a big deal. I would like him to sell some Bitcoin, to be quite honest. He can sell it to me to a special price, very very low price.
Thank you so much, Niko, for being on the podcast and being such a gracious host and guest at the same time. Before I let you go, the few people that are able to listen in German, but you also have an English thing, right?
Yeah, but I'm not doing anything. It's called fixthemoney.net,
yeah.
But I haven't published anything in like a year or so.
So where can
if you want to
people
subscribe
find you?
there, So basically, if you go to, you can link it, but if you go to Was Bitcoin bringt on YouTube, we can do a collab thing
Yeah.
on YouTube, and then you can see it. And also, I mean, we talked about AI. I really hope that it's not so far away that YouTube, gets better and better with AI translation, and that's something that AI will be able to do. So it's in a couple of years, you can watch my stuff in every language you want to watch it in, and you can watch your stuff in every language you want to watch it in. And then also because it's actual, real human speech and emotion, there's going to be more to this than pure AI content. So that's actually one thing that I look forward to.
I'm still amazed how bad YouTube is at that.
Yeah, but it's
but I
gonna
think
get
it's going to go a lot better. Yeah.
Do you want a question from me, or do I give you the question afterwards? For
You
the
can,
next
if
guest?
you already have it, you can give it to me now.
So it's a it's a stupid question, but it's maybe a little fun. So my question would be, what do we see first? Bitcoin mining in space or gold mining in space?
That's such a fun question. I have no way of knowing, but it's a fun
I
question.
think it's going to be Bitcoin mining.
Yeah.
But I'm not the one who's going to answer it. Your next guest has to answer it.
Yeah. Who's the guest that brought that up that you also had on and I also had on? The red guy.
Oh, Ratoshi.
Ratoshi,
Yeah,
yes.
I learned a lot from him about these things. But now there is an actual startup that is backed by NVIDIA who wants to do Bitcoin mining in space.
Oh, nice.
So there is like plans for that. It's not just, and it seems to be economically feasible, but I don't know.
Thank you so much,
Thank you, Robin.
Niko, for being on. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.